Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Live in Conversation. We are here every Wednesday. I am Winnie Antoine, your co host, with my lovely co host, attorney, mom, wife, you name it. She's it, Daphnée Camilien. Daphnée, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Look lovely. I love your lights. I mean, you are just shining.
Finally, much better light. So thank you for
For
that.
sure. Well, thank you to all of you who are joining us. For those of you who've been seeing us live before, our mission is to come here every Wednesdays at 8 p.m. to share with you all knowledges, resources, information that can help all of us, especially in this season. So, as you all know, Daphnée is an attorney. She practices family law, immigration law, business law. And so, but this evening, we will be talking specifically in regards to immigration law and some information that she will be sharing with all of us so that we can know exactly what to do in this season. So, I kindly ask that you all share this. If you know anybody who can benefit from this information, Daphne is an amazing resource. She's an amazing attorney and she's here live. So go ahead, put your question and share it. Definitely before we get started, anything you want to add?
No, just that. Oh, I said no, then start talking. Um, no, just that this is live, obviously on your page. It's also being broadcast live on YouTube on my page, Chameleon Law, as well as Renee Antoine's YouTube page as well.
Let me make sure that I share it to your Chameleon Law page. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that. If anyone have any comments or question, I kindly ask that you exit on my page. So therefore, I'll be able to screen it on the StreamYard service. But then, Daphne, you always do a disclosure. How about you go ahead and do that for us this evening?
Yeah, sure. So, anything I am an attorney. However, I'm not your attorney. So, anything I'm saying is for informational purposes only. I do always suggest to people if you do have a legal question or you have a concern, please reach out to an attorney. You could also reach out to me with your question and you can move forward from there. So, do not take, this is only for informational purposes just to kind of inform people. And then if you want to take a further step, I do suggest that you reach out to an attorney.
And Daphne will be an amazing attorney to reach out to. So let me just say that right there. So with that being said, let's get started. I know maybe you're gonna talk briefly about the immigration news right now, and then I definitely have a few questions that I want to ask you this evening. And if anybody else have any question, we'll go ahead and take them as well.
Yep. So how I'm going to tell you what's going on in immigration right now, and also just kind of break down like the different ways that you can get your green card. These are just certain ways that I'm telling people about. There could be other ways. So that's why I said reach out to an attorney if your situation is different and doesn't fit into any of the categories that I'm talking about. And if you have any questions about that. But to start off with, I want to talk to you about immigration news. So what's going on with immigration? So uh, in August, the United States Immigration Services had issued a statement saying that they were going to increase fees, and that was going to affect a lot of people. A lot of different fees that was going to affect, including asylum, people who've been persecuted. Before the application used to be free, and now they were going to start charging people $50, which was very alarming because these people are in desperate situations. A lot of organizations decided to, immigrant rights organizations, they decided to sue the government because of these fees, because they were significant. It wasn't like a $5 fee, it was a big jump for a lot of things, a lot of different categories. And so they sued in a federal court. And one of the reasons why is because they said this would negatively impact people, for example, asylum people coming here escaping persecution, who don't have anything, and charging them fees. And then also on top of that, it would, for some of the lower income immigrant workers who don't have these fees to pay, if you're gonna, they'll be you're stopping them from, getting services because the fee would be a barrier. So they sued and they got an injunction. So that just means the judge said, okay, we're going to stop this right now, and we're going to stop basically the fee increase. So it didn't go into effect. It was supposed to go into effect October 2nd, which was just 5 days ago, but it didn't go into effect. But it's not over, right? So the judge just said we're going to stop it, right? And then based on the reasonings the people gave that sued, but at the same time, the government can appeal. They can say, wait a minute, no, we don't agree with this. We're gonna appeal this case, and they have 60 days to do that. So it's not over with. So that's something that we have to pay attention to, and stay tuned to that as well.
So, I mean, with fees right now, like, what do you feel like is a sentiment in regarding to? I mean, obviously, I know this is a service that's being provided, so therefore, there's fees with that service. But
Right.
would you say, and then are you an attorney? I'm not sure if you can exactly answer that, but would you say that the fees increase is to basically deter people from actually going for those services?
Right. So and that's what people are fearing. That's the reason they agree. We know things cost more, right? And we agree with some fees, like, making something that's gradual, but you don't want to take something that was, for example, free before, and then saying, okay, now it's $500, or when I say free, like, there was just certain, like,
Like 150.
yeah, like, see, if it was a gradual increase, I think people would be more likely to accept something of that nature. But it went to a significant increase in a lot of type of forms that people fill out. So yeah, that was a problem.
It's like to deter people from actually seeking those services, and putting a barrier into them actually getting the service that they're looking for.
Right.
And so hence why the
That was
non-for-profit
the
has to
right.
stand up.
Right, and that was the opinion of a lot of people, that was just another attempt. So they feel like immigration's being squeezed on so many different levels, and this was just another way to squeeze immigration.
That's unfortunate. Let me ask you though, and I know with those fees, people are expecting services, but then based on what I've heard is that there's such a low, I'm sorry, there is such a low process right now. Like the time frame that people are is actually increasing. So stuff that used to be done maybe 3 months, 6 months is taking actually years now. So is there any foreseeing, maybe, like, are they gonna is there can we foresee that this gonna change in the near future, that there's actually gonna be people who's providing those services?
Right, the immigration system has in general always been slow, but it's very slow now. It's extremely slow now. So it could change. It depends on if we have an administration change. That could kind of change the climate of things, and it could increase. It could speed things up as far as, like, we don't know if there would be new hires, more people to process the paperwork. There was COVID-19, which didn't help because things were already slow. Things were backlogged. A lot of laws keep changing, which kind of, immigration rules keep changing, prolongs, like applications, right? So, if, for example, if you had filed for, um, let's see, a green card renewal, and you didn't know that, the application changed and you got rejected, that's all time frame. Nothing was wrong with the application except you filed with an old application. Now your application's, rejected and you have to refile. So things like that increase the time, and things are constantly changing right now in immigration. So, in the whole system. So that is could be, an issue.
So when let me go back to two. So what, like when, for example, if in a form expire, okay, the application was already in the system, is that gonna be like a new fee for that?
They won't. Luckily, they haven't been taking the money. What they've been doing is returning everything and saying that it's wrong. Well, they won't. They're not going to say they'll like if they won't specifically say you have an expired. They'll say a couple things that could be wrong with it. And if you don't understand the form, you may not understand that that's exactly what your issue is. Everything else can be perfect. It's just that. But they're not taking your money and saying, oh well, too bad. They're returning everything and saying that, this is we're rejecting your application for whatever reason.
Okay. So what like suggestions that you have for people who may not really feel comfortable, okay, with going through this by themselves right now, and especially if the dynamic with the government and with everything that's going on right now, would you suggest for somebody to take the chance and submitting the application their own, or would it be best for them to have somebody with some level of expertise and experience go through this process with them?
Yeah, I'm always gonna suggest to reach out to somebody with some experience, like an attorney. I'm an attorney. I will always tell you first to go through an attorney. If they didn't want to for whatever reason, the advice that I can give is that make sure, so everything has to be precise, right? So it's really, really important that they read the instructions, they answer the questions, they sign the application, they provide the evidence they're supposed to. If they follow the rules, but it has to be very, very precise. And that would just be my, recommendation. But I would always tell, because sometimes people may say like, oh, I don't have any issues, and then they like, it should be straightforward, but they do. They have hopefully not an arrest, but they have something in their background that could mess up their application, or they did something that we would advise them not to go ahead and apply right now, or they have to wait, or um, just a little bit off topic, but like if I'll just give you an example of a person who, for example, has a green card and wants to, since we're talking about green cards, wants to get their citizenship, and you have to wait 5 years, but within the 5 years, you can 2.5 of the 5 years, so that's like 6 months a year. You can travel, but you can't be out of the country for more than half of the 5 years. Does that make sense?
That
So
makes
with
sense.
5 years right before you're about to apply for your app, because they'll look at your passport before you're supposed to apply for your citizenship. Well, if I look at it, or anybody looks at it, and they're like, okay, within the last 5 years, I was back and forth in, this area, or I ended up staying for 3 years, in wherever area, I might tell you, don't apply right now. You're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, and then when you apply, then you can, you'll see that, but you're not supposed to anyway. That would be that would not be helpful for you, and no one should be out of the country for, if you're a green card holder, for within the 5 year frame, like for more than 2.5 years. Although, like I said, there's always exceptions. So that's why I said you always want to talk to someone, because maybe someone was, I don't know, in a hospital for a year, so there's always situations and exceptions.
So basically, what I'm hearing is that saying it's always best to seek the advice of someone who's knowledgeable, in the immigration system.
Right.
Yeah. And so since we talk about green cards, right? I have a few questions for you. And then
Okay.
so for some people who want to know, especially right now, like you mentioned about the restriction with traveling, can a green card holder travel outside of the US?
Yes, they can. Um, they can travel freely. They can travel freely, no issues. Sorry, I'm drinking my water. Right. So there's no restrictions. The only one of the things I'll just caution people on. So, and I'll talk probably after this, I'll talk about some of the ways you can get a green card. One of the ways you can get a green card is through asylum, right? And I'll just explain asylum right now really quick. And it's basically if you're being persecuted in your home country, uh, if you're being persecuted in your home country and you come to the US, you can file for asylum, and that's a special category that you're put in. And the US has 5 grounds that and the US is very strict on their asylum. So, and what they'll accept for asylum, and there's 5 grounds. And so you have to be persecuted. You can't just be persecuted in general, like your neighbor persecuted you, tortured you, you left the country, you came to the US, you want to get asylum. That's not how it works. It has to be based on political opinion, it has to be based on race, or religion. So it's political opinion or religion or race or nationality, or based on a particular social group that you may be a part of. And so there are special rules that are asylum, but let's say you were granted asylum, right? And that's the way, once you're granted asylum, you get this special category, you can then apply for your green card, right? So let's say you got your green card through asylum, right? So let's say, I'll pick a country, uh, let's say Iceland, okay? Let's say you have, you're being persecuted in Iceland, you come here, you know, you were granted asylum, right? You apply within 1 year, you know, you followed all the rules, etc. You got it. Well, once you get your green card, yes, you can travel freely, but it's not suggested that you travel to Iceland where, you know, you said you were persecuted, and that you know that you couldn't go back to that home country. That's why you were seeking refuge in the US. It's not advised that you go back to your home country. You know, and so the issue is, if someone started to travel back to, for example, Iceland after they received their green card based on asylum, from being persecuted in Iceland, that can be a big problem for a person, especially when they decide that they want to become a citizen, and you know they're looking at a passport and they see that, you know, immigration officers see that you were traveling to Iceland. So that's a big red flag, and that's a big no-no. Of course, there's exceptions probably to everything, but in general rule, I would not advise somebody to do that, but without seeking, you know, some type of attorney counsel ahead of time.
Well, that's great information. And so, for all of you who are watching right now, we are live in conversation with Daphnée Camilien. Daphnée is an attorney in the Chicago area. She practices immigration law, business law, family law. But in tonight's conversation is in regards to immigration law, specifically the latest news in respect to immigration right now and how one can get the green card. And so, if you're watching right now, I thank you. I see a lot of you are watching. I appreciate it. Thank you for those who shared. Actually, I have Vanessa Stewart, quick shout out. She says good information, and she also shared it. So, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
And so, this is why we're here every Wednesdays to bring some knowledge and information. So, with that being said, I know, you know, voting is around the corner. You know, November is near.
Yeah.
And what I guess information do you have for green card holders? Can green card holders vote? Let's clarify that.
Yes. Let's clarify that. And the answer is no. Green card holders cannot vote. Only US citizens can vote. So how could this happen, right? Like, how could, like, some people would say, of course. No, it's not, of course, you know. There are certain things, you know, people, we're in voting season now, right? So I could easily see someone on the street saying, hey, sign this piece of paper, you know, register to vote. And if you didn't know, you might do it. Or, you know, there are places, you know, there could be stuff you pop on Facebook and they're asking about people voting. There's like the registration to vote right now is very, very easy. It's much easier than it's ever been. As far, it was never super hard, but they're making it so much easier. So it's really easy to accidentally do that. You don't ever want to do that though, okay? And the reason why is because as a green card holder, you're not eligible to vote. Only U.S. citizens are eligible to vote in the U.S. election. So even registering to vote, let's say you register and you say, oops, you realize, no, I wasn't supposed to. That can be a big mistake. Voting is a bigger mistake, but registering is a big problem as well. And it's because, the only people who can register to vote is U.S. citizens. So if you register to vote, it's as if you're saying you're a U.S. citizen, and you can't do that and then go and apply for your citizenship. That's one of the questions on the application is if has you ever said that you were a citizen, right? And registering to vote, you didn't say out loud you're a citizen, but only citizens can vote. So you're acting as if you're a citizen. So that's that can be a big problem. And so that's a long way to say no, that's a long way to say green card holders cannot register to vote and cannot vote also.
Well, I actually have a follow up for you. So, Fadia is one of our supporters, always with us, and she has a follow up in regards to what about mayoral election? So, can green card holders vote in a mayoral election?
No, they cannot. So they're yeah, they can't vote for locally. So our mayors would be like a local election. They can't vote locally or like federally for like president and that type of position as well. So no, they cannot.
How about LSC, local school councils? Would that be cool?
They
They are making it.
no. It depends. So this is generally having to do like with general elections. If
Political
if
election.
Right. So if it's something like a you mean like a school, what are the rules to that? Like most schools it have to do with like your community. So like if you live in the community, if you have a child attending a school, then you can that's a little bit different. That's actually a good question. That's a little bit different than because you don't need to be a citizen to participate in that. You just need to be a part of that community.
Makes sense. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Okay. And then so now that someone maybe have a green card and they want to know how long does it last. So what will be your answer to that?
Okay, um, so green, and I should, we jumped into question. I didn't even say that. Green card and permanent residence card are the same thing, right? People just call it a green card because the card is kind of greenish, right? But it's the same exact thing. So it's meant to be permanent unless you decide you want to become a citizen. But so your green card, but the actual card expires every 10 years. Okay, so um, at this point, I would say so. The answer to that is 10 years. You have to renew it, but it is permanent. So how long does it last? As long as you want it. But the actual card, your status as being a green card holder is permanent, unless you change it to a citizen. But the actual card has an expiration date, and you need the card to work and to open a bank account, to do certain things like that, traveling, things like that.
Okay. And then so there are some green cards though that have like conditions. Can you explain those for me, please?
Yeah. So if you are, if you, so this is a great way segue into another way that you can get your green card, and that's to be petitioned by a family member, right? So if you're petitioned by a spouse, husband or wife, right, you get married, and that's the way you receive your green card. Well, if you get married and you apply for your green card and you receive your green card, and by the time you receive your green card, it's still less than 2 years since the time you were married. So let's say you got married October 2019. You immediately applied for your green card. You received the green card, let's say March 2020, and you would have received a green card with conditions, right? So it's not automatically permanent, the green card you received, it's with conditions. And usually, and basically, the conditions are you have the green card for 2 years. After you've had the green card for 2 years, at that time, you have to fill out another application with immigration, and you're asking them to remove the conditions, remove the conditional green card. Now you want it to be permanent so that you don't have to file any paperwork anymore. You just have to renew your green card every 10 years, renew the card every 10 years. So once the 2 years is up, which is usually what the conditions are for, then you go ahead and file that paperwork, and then you get the conditions removed, and now you have your permanent green card.
Aside, let me go do that. Aside from marriage, are there any other like a situation where there will be like a conditional green card?
No, so family, that's usually, it's just marriage. So family based, we can go into a little bit about family-based petitions. So other ways to get your green card, it is through, so family is a spouse, right? Husband, wife, but there are other ways to get your green card. And we can talk about family-based petitions. That's mother, father, son, daughter, brother, sister. That's what's considered a family, right? For green card purposes, for immigration purposes. So cousin, auntie, uncle, grandma, those people unfortunately are family, right? So that's fortunate, but unfortunately they cannot file for you. So in that situation, once they do file for you, then once you get your green card based on that, what they call family-based petition, based on being a family member of that person, you receive your permanent green card. You do not receive a green card with conditions.
Okay. So let's I know you went over what is actually family. So we are talking about immediate family, and you said that's your mom, your dad, brother, sister, and you said and then spouse, correct?
Right. So mom, dad, brother, sister. Sorry. Mom, dad, brother, sister, husband, wife, son, daughter. Son and daughter,
Okay.
adult son and daughter. So if you got a 10-year-old, right? You're not a citizen, but your 10-year-old's a citizen, they can't file for you, right? Because they're a minor. So it's not minors. They have to be an adult. They have to prove that they can support you.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Makes sense. So, and therefore, a minor wouldn't be able to support you,
Right.
so they cannot apply. So I have a question from Fadia, and her question is: if you're married and your green card application has been rejected, can you reapply?
Yes, you can reapply. It also, uh, well, yes, but the thing that you have to take into consideration is, why were you rejected? They will tell you why they're rejecting your application. If they're rejecting your application because um, you're married to three other people in the United States, and they pull the marriage certificates, that's going to be difficult because you have to prove that you're divorced from those people, and then go ahead and reapply. But you usually, whatever reason they say as to why they're rejecting you, you have to fix it, and then you can go ahead and reapply. You can also appeal the rejection if it's something. So you can reapply. The other option is, if you don't agree with why they're rejecting you, if it's just flat out wrong, you can go ahead and appeal it. But some people will just reapply because the process to appeal it could be, it's costly, and it also could be um, long.
Okay, so basically the short answer is yes, but then either you reapply or you appeal. And
Right. So
as for a situation like that, they'll definitely need an attorney.
yeah, because yes, I would highly suggest it, because the thing is, you have to think about it. Everything you do, there's a record. Like everything you've done with immigration, there's a record. So if they rejected you because, for I'll give you that, they rejected you because, let's say your name was John Smith. John Smith is a pretty common name, and they said that you were married to three other people, right? You're like, no, that's not true, right? I'm gonna reapply. I'm gonna reapply. Okay, when you go reapply and you go before them again, what's different this time? You have to have proof that they were mistaken. It's not, and it cannot be your word. It has to be hard evidence as to what to prove that they were truly mistaken. So it has to be something different. But yeah, you appeal it, but you have to address why they reject you, because they're gonna say the same thing. They'll have it open and they'll say, well, you were married to these three people, and if you're like, but I'm not, that's not good enough.
All right. Well, I hope that answer your question, Fadia. If you have any follow up, feel free to comment on it. Again, this is Renee Antoine and Daphnée Camilien live in conversation. We are here every Wednesday to share our knowledge or expertise. Daphne is an attorney in the Chicago area, and then and I am an entrepreneur as well. And so, with that being said, please share this conversation to anyone you might think would benefit from this. So we have another question from Vanessa Stewart, and then this goes back to our earlier conversation regarding green cards with conditions. So let me pull it up. So Vanessa said, what about if the spouse doesn't want to remove the condition on the green card for you? Can someone else reapply for you? So that's when we're talking about green cards with conditions. How
Right.
would that work?
So okay, so that's tricky, right? That's a tricky situation. Um, can someone else apply for you to remove conditions? No, right? Can someone else apply for you to get like another family member? For example, let's say you had a brother who was here. Can he apply for you? Um, Yes, he can, although siblings is the category, one of the categories that takes the longest to get a person approved. You're approved, sorry, but to come here for available visa. The problem with if you have a spouse, so this is really tricky, and this does happen. If you have a spouse, they get here, you have to prove that they refuse to remove conditions. You can file to have you can ask for a waiver of conditions, and you can file for them to remove the conditions. But the issue is you're going to have to prove it. So if this is an abusive situation, which is what tends to not tends, but sometimes happens when people bring people over here for whatever reason, it turns abusive. It's used as a control tactic, and they won't file the petition to remove your conditions because so that becomes an issue. So you can file by yourself, but you have to explain what's going on. You have to file a waiver of you're basically file a waiver saying that they don't have to sign off on it. But the issue then becomes they're looking to see what you're doing. So if it's an abusive situation, have you called the police? Have you been abused? If not, are you going to divorce this person? You can't say that the person won't remove conditions and you're still with the person and you haven't filed for some type of divorce or separation. They're looking to see what's going on with your situation because they want to know, is it a situation where um, they're trying to make sure it's not marriage fraud, and they're looking at all these conditions. So that's what it is. That I would highly suggest you talk to someone, especially if they won't remove the conditions. But there's other ways. Um, there might, because you can also based on abuse, you can self petition. So there's a couple other ways that they can do it. They don't need the person. It's easier. It's a better situation. It's much goes quicker if you do it that way. But there are ways to do it.
Well, that is good to know. I hope this answer your question, Vanessa. And again, if you want to follow up or you want us to clarify anything, feel free to comment in the post. And if anybody else is joining right now, feel free to ask any question that we'll do our best to answer them for you as well. And then so now let's go back to somebody who's had a green card. Okay, what is the likelihood that that green card can be revoked? What would be the situation for a green card to be revoked?
So um, a green card can be revoked, right? So if you commit a crime and you're convicted, your green card can be revoked, right? So a lot of times you may hear that people um, commit crimes and then once they go to prison, once they get out of prison, they're immediately deported to their country. That's because the county or state that they were incarcerated in reported they see that you're not a U.S. citizen, and they see your immigration passport because they run an FBI check on you, and they see that you're not a citizen, and they report it to immigration. And once you're, like I said, released, they will go ahead and take you, deport you. So one of the interesting things about getting your green card revoked is that what people don't know is some of the crimes that people can get their green card revoked. So drugs is a big one, right? The immigration does not like, no one likes drugs, but it's one of those things you can get revoked for drugs, possession of drugs, and it doesn't have to be something like, oh, you're a big drug dealer. I'm talking about possession, not selling. Another thing that could surprise people that you could actually be deported for that. Another big one that people may or may not know is that you can also be deported if you're convicted of a DUI, if you're convicted of driving under the influence, right? Drunk driving.
Wow.
Yeah, you can be deported for that. So um, it happens very often. So people would be really surprised for that. So that's something they should know.
Wow. I'm glad my face wasn't on camera because I was shocked about that. Do
Yeah.
not drink and drive if you are a green card holder.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know people can get deported, but I didn't know like just for a DUI.
Yeah.
But then let's go back to that though. Wouldn't you say? I mean, if someone committed a crime and then they were convicted, they were sentenced, and then they served that term, and then for them to be again deported, wouldn't that be double punishment?
Immigrant. So no, because okay, so because you're talking about like double jeopardy, you mean charged,
Yeah.
right? So immigration is federal law, and when you do a crime is state law, right? Or when you do a crime within the state, sometimes you do federal crimes too. So that like bank fraud, things like that, that's federal as well. So that has another implication. But most of these cases I'm talking about is more state law, like drugs, getting caught with, like, for example, cocaine or something like that, or even getting caught and getting on probation, right? You didn't even really serve time. That can put you in trouble. So that's something to be very aware of. But yeah. So it's not double jeopardy. It's not considered double jeopardy, and even the arrest. So um, let's say you're in immigration court for something, and or you're trying to become a citizen, or you're in immigration court and they run an FBI check. They say you were arrested for domestic battery. Maybe you got to drop down to disorderly conduct, which is not, so originally you're arrested for a felony, but you get dropped down to a misdemeanor, let's say disorderly conduct. You say that's and then you're convicted, but you don't do time. You do like community service. So you're like, oh, I think it's just felonies. No. Immigration looks at it. They're going to have questions for you, and the government can request that you not get whatever immigration benefit you're trying to seek. For example, if you're a green card, you're trying to become a citizen, they could ask that you be rejected, and possibly that your green card be taken away because they have something called crimes against moral turpitude. There's certain crimes that you commit that they feel like you're not a moral person, and they don't want those type of people in the United States. And so even though you now have a misdemeanor, you don't even have a felony, you have a misdemeanor, right? That can still jeopardize your immigration status.
This is an amazing conversation. I mean, I'm learning a lot. I hope you all are learning a lot. Please share this information with people you think might be benefit from it. So I just wanted to follow up with something real quick because you said bank fraud.
Right.
Being a banker, I'm coming from the banking industry where bank fraud is so rampant. Okay, so and it does include people depositing fake checks, opening accounts, just to, do illegal stuff. What advice do you have for anybody, and especially the younger generation, because they don't really know, they're just thinking it's a quick $100, $500 here and there that they benefit from. What advice do you have for them when it comes to bank fraud?
Don't do it. If you get caught, if you get caught by the feds, you do most of your time, right? I don't remember what the split is, so I don't want to say the percentage. You know how like for example, like some people, if they get caught, and they may get, a certain amount of time, and then they get time for good credit, and they get time for this, so they really don't serve as much time. Not the federal government is not the same. Don't do it. Don't do any crime, but it's just like it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Whether you're an immigrant or not, just don't do it. It's not a federal. Don't mess with the feds. That's all I say. They don't come after you unless they have like a lot of evidence, and when they come after you, they really have a lot against you. So it's not. I wouldn't suggest it to anybody.
Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna back that up. And then, so again, especially for maybe like a younger kids, if somebody's approaching you to go open an account for them, anybody wants you to put the check in your account, do not do it. I mean, I work in banking for 8 years. I see it happen all the time, and it's not worth it, like Daphne said. So we
And
do have a follow. Oh, go ahead. I'm
oh, go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
No, you can finish because I'm gonna go to a question for.
Okay,
Uh,
I would say this because that makes a good point, and especially that also can jeopardize your immigration status, right? Because um I did have someone that had an issue like that. Um, that is usually 99.9% of times a scam. If someone is telling you, go ahead and deposit this and give me the cash from it. You can go to currency exchange. There's so many opportunities. If they can't cash their own, it's money. Money's valuable. If people aren't just going to give you, whatever it is, 1,000, 100, $50, cash it, so when that check bounces and you're like, it's not me, that's not the way the bank is looking at it. And if they're running this fraud on several people, they could, it could freeze your accounts, they could hold your money, they can seize your assets, which is what happened to someone I know. They froze a person's assets to pay off someone else because they didn't know who was scamming who, but that person had some money in their account. And then if you're an immigrant, that's also very, when I say immigrant, an immigrant with, if you're here on a student visa, if you're here on a visitor visa, or visitor visa, you wouldn't have a bank account, but like a student visa or, a green card holder, whatever your situation is, don't do it.
All right, don't do it. So Fadia has another question. Thank you so much for commenting and asking question. I appreciate it. So Fadia asks, can you lose your citizenship if you're not American born? So basically that goes back to my question about green card. Can a green card be revoked? But then let's just say that you became a U.S. citizen. Can you lose your U.S. citizenship?
Okay,
That's an
so
amazing question, Fadia. Thank you for asking that.
so in this current administration, right? Like it's not in. So the question is yes, right? But it's not something that happens often. But usually, if it does happen, it's because of typically it's because of fraud. If they found out that you lied on an application, like your application to become a citizen, if they found out that you lied, that's usually what it is. Like they, for whatever reason, were looking at it. They went back to look at it. Someone tipped them off. Something happened. For whatever reason, they went back and reviewed your application. And if they see that there was inconsistencies, if they believe fraud happens, they can strip you of your citizenship.
Good to know. All right. Again, this is Vinny Antoine and Attorney Daphnée Camilien live in conversation. Tonight we are discussing immigration laws, specific in regards to green card holder and how to be a U.S. citizen and to have a green card. And then, so with that being said, what would you suggest for someone who may have a green card right now, and who's thinking about becoming a U.S. citizen? Should they go for it? Which one you think is better?
So I would say, and even to piggyback on your last question about losing your citizenship, um, I would say that I would suggest in this time, that we're in, and then just in general, I always would suggest to go ahead and get your citizenship. You're not always looking over your shoulder if you become a citizen. There's no, paying that fee every 10 years to renew your citizenship. I'm sorry, to renew your green card. You just once you have your green card, you have your green card. So I would highly suggest that. And in that other question about getting your citizenship revoked, if you commit a crime, let's say um, you become a citizen and you commit a crime after you become a citizen, you're not going to get your citizenship revoked, right? I was saying that it was fraud, in obtaining your green card. But let's say you, I don't know, robbed a bank after, to celebrate you becoming a citizen, you decide to rob to rob a bank, right? You're not going to get, you're not going to be deported, and so based on because you're now a citizen. So I would suggest it, just because things are changing, the laws are changing, and I always just you don't know what's going to happen. What happens if you've had your green card and they make some rule? I don't know if they could do this, but if some rule came out that you've had your green card for 10 years and you haven't become a citizen, you have 1 year to do it. Can you imagine trying to do it? So um, I just would recommend it. That way, you save money at that. Oh, the other benefit of it too is that when you are a citizen, you can vote, right? Which is really important. It's a wonderful right that people have. But you can also that also makes you eligible for federal jobs, right? That people might not know. A lot of jobs that people can't apply to, they're not eligible because they're not citizens. It's not all, but it's a lot. So that's another benefit of getting your citizenship.
That's a great point there. Federal jobs, requires U.S. citizenship, and so if we here and we wanna participate, in those type of careers, then definitely citizenship is required. All
Mhm.
right, now you talk about fees, right?
Right.
So in regards to all the fees that people have to pay every 10 years to renew the green card. So what is the current fee right now for somebody to get a green card or to apply for the green card?
So it's $535 right now. It's just the initial fee, excuse me, for the application. However, it is supposed to go up as we talked about. So we don't know what's going to happen. It may increase. So I would highly recommend that people, if that's something that they are interested in, if they're eligible, to go ahead and start the process before it goes up.
So you said that it's 540, am I correct?
535.
535 to apply for a green card. Are there any additional fees like the background check, fingerprinting? Are there fees with that
So that's
once you pay the
included.
540?
No, that's included in the 535, right?
535.
For the initial fee, right?
Okay, so no additional fees afterward.
Well, so it depends, right? So it depends what you're basing your green card on, right? So if it's family, if it's like there could be fees for like consular processing if your family members in another country, and then you have to go to that consulate or embassy in that country. There will be fees. There's a medical exam, but if you're in the US and you're filing asylum, so it just depends, right? It really depends on what you're filing under.
And so then that'll be when a situation like that, then therefore it's typically best to consult with an attorney. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. We have another question, Vanessa, from Vanessa Stewart. So thank you for participating. We appreciate the question. That makes the conversation so much easier. And so with Vanessa X, how long does it take for your parents to get approved for a green card when you apply for them if they are living illegally in the US already?
So say it again. How long does it? How? Hold on.
So if let's say you have a parent who is already living in the US
Mhm.
illegally, but then you can go ahead, maybe you are a US citizen or maybe you are a green card holder, and then you want to apply for
Okay.
them to have the legal status. Like maybe like I'm gonna add to that. What would that process look like, and how long will it take? Because
Okay.
the
Sorry.
person is already living here in the US.
Okay, that's what I was trying to hear. Okay, so it depends. Are you a citizen or are you a green card holder? Right. The people who have the highest so there's different categories, right? So the person who has like I say the highest category is a citizen, right? So if they apply for you, so a green card holder can apply for a family member and a citizen can apply for a family member, right? So if you are a citizen and you're applying for it, it just depends. It depends how long your parent has been here illegally. Because if they've been here, so there's certain, without getting too technical, there's certain like if they've been here for a couple years, there's typically like once you apply, then they like to do like a 10-year ban, right? So they'll ask you to go to your home country, right? And then they'll ban you from coming to the US for 10 years, and then you'll be eligible to come, right? But there could be some exceptions. So it depends how long they've been here. It depends, do they have minor children? It depends like there's a whole lot of stuff. Yeah, you can file a waiver from that ban if you have some really compelling reasons. The family member could have, God forbid, but they could be really sick, or they could have a disease that can be better treated in the U.S. There has to be extraordinary circumstances that could get them to do a waiver. But I don't know. Like if they're older parents, they've been here for like 30 years, they have grown kids now, they've worked, they're like retired, for example. They might not have certain or extraordinary, they may have some reasons, they may not. So it just depends. So the answer is depends. And I can't say how long because I don't know how long they've been here. I don't know what kind of circumstances. But let's say they had.
I'm sorry, Daphne. Let me add to that real quick. So
Okay.
Vanessa did clarify.
Okay.
And then again, so I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the conversation.
Mhm.
And Daphne is an attorney in the Chicago area. But you know what, Daphne? Because I keep saying you're in Chicago, but then would like for somebody who's in a different state, would you still be able to consult with that person?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
immigration is federal. So
it's federal.
um so I'm allowed to practice federal law anywhere in the United States. So yes, and just for a consultation, even to represent them, yes.
Okay. So yeah, so definitely it's already 9 o'clock, almost 9 o'clock, and this has been, I guess, a much needed conversation. And then as you're seeing on the bottom, Daphne is generously providing 20 minutes free consultation. So her number is 847-410-9022. And you can also email her Daphnée.Camilien@chameleonlaw.com, so that if you have specific question, that she will be more than happy to have a 20-minute free consultation with everyone. So I'm just gonna go ahead and answer the next two questions, and then we'll wrap it for the night. So we here every Wednesday. Maybe next week I'm gonna be talking about something else, but I feel like maybe people have more information. So we never know. Maybe next week we'll continue this conversation as well. So with that being said, thank you for everyone who's participating. Please share it. Vanessa did clarify,
Okay.
and then so it's for a US citizen. So the child is US citizen, and the
Okay.
parent has been here only for 6 months.
Oh, 6 months. Um, but they're here illegally? Like they overstayed?
And maybe the over most likely the overstay.
Okay.
maybe a visa. That's what I will assume. But then again, if it's for somebody that you know, I'm sorry, Vanessa, if you're asking for somebody that you know, feel free to have them contact
Yeah.
Daphnée. But this
Yeah.
is just
Because
general answer right here.
right, right. So I would say it could be a 3 year bar. It just depends because it's under a year. So yeah, have them contact to see and they can start, they can at least, get some information as to how they want to proceed with the next steps.
Yep, definitely. I would say definitely reach out to Daphnée for this. And then so Fadia, I had a last question that we're gonna answer. Okay. Is it better to apply for a Okay, I think this is kind of similar to what Vanessa asked. So is it better to apply for a green card while living in the US or in the home country?
Okay, um, so it depends. So if you are, it depends where how you're getting your green card, right? So if you are, so I'll give you a typical example of what sometimes happens, right? Sometimes people come to the United States on a visitor visa for, for to visit, right? And they meet someone, they fall in love, and they stay here, right? They end up overstaying their visa, and they get excuse me, they get married, and then they adjust their status, right? They change their status from being a visitor visa person who had overstayed to now getting their green card. So they don't have to leave the country because they married their spouse, right? They got married and they have a spouse who's living in the U.S., right? So that's a different category. However, if it's a relative like brother, sister, um, even like mother, father, that's a little bit different. Uh, so as far as the visas, there that goes into more than likely counselor processing, and that means that you file the information, you file the petition, and I didn't say more than likely, it is likely that's what happens. You file the petition for the person. They at the time, let's say it's approved, it more than likely will be approved, and they'll say, okay, go ahead and do the next step, which is file at the U.S. They're going to send the file to the U.S. Embassy. Now you have to start your application with the embassy in your home country, which means that you have to get interviewed in your home country. So when you go back to your home country, that's what they call consular processing. When you go sit for an interview, they'll say, "Oh, you overstayed," and then they start looking at how long you overstayed. And the U.S. has what they call a 3 year and a 10 year ban, depending on how long you overstayed before you can become eligible for that green card. But you can also file a waiver to waive the ban, but they look at extraordinary circumstances. So it just really, really depends on the way you're trying to get your visa. If it's family-based visa, if it's not through marriage, but through like a parent or a sibling, that's completely different than if you're doing it based upon marriage.
These are amazing information. And I remember we had a conversation about that before for
Hmm.
someone who was asking that same question. Also, thank you to everyone who's watching tonight. We so much appreciate it. We thank you, all of you who asked questions, who shared it. We here every Wednesday, live in conversation, obviously different topics every week. But then it sounds like people had more questions. So if I will maybe post a question on my Facebook page. If this is a discussion that you guys want to follow up on next week, and then depending on how many people want us to continue this conversation, we'll definitely go ahead and do that. Again, Daphnée is an attorney in the Chicago area, but then because this is immigration, she can practice in any of the states. So if you want to take advantage of the free consultation that she's offering for 20 minutes, feel free to reach out to her via phone or via her email, Daphnée at Camillion Law, or 847-410-9022. I'm gonna go ahead right now and put a shameless plug. I am an entrepreneur in the financial services industry, and then so many immigrants may not know that they can have life insurance. And so, if that's a conversation that you want to have, feel free to reach out to me. Boom, 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 at 312-547-1990. I know a lot of time because maybe we're from different country, it's a different culture, and we may not know exactly what are the different resources that we can take advantage of. So life insurance is one of those resources that all of us, when I say immigration, that means the green card holder for visa, if you have a visa and you've been living in the different maybe circumstances, that maybe an insurance agency will be able to approve you for a policy, but then it's like really not sure. But then that's when we will have a one-on-one conversation. So if you are listening to this conversation right now and you are an immigrant and you have family members who are immigrants and who do not have life insurance, it is really important that we as a community pass this information. We encourage each other to take advantage of all those resources that this country affords us to take advantage of. So with that being said, that's my shameless plug. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Daphnée. That was an amazing conversation. Thank you to all of you watching. You want to add anything before we end the night, Daphnée?
Yeah, I think if not next week, the week after, I will. There's a couple more ways we didn't talk. We talked about family-based petition. We talked a little bit about asylum, but we didn't talk about H-1B visas or
Oh, wow.
about the diversity of the green card people can get, U visas. Well, there's a couple other things out there
We
that,
should
but
definitely
we can do like
we
I said,
should
it's
definitely follow up next week. No,
yeah,
let's do next week.
yeah, to be
That will
continued.
gonna be a
I should say.
continue
Yeah.
conversation. All right, everyone. Winnie Antoine signing out with the lovely attorney Daphnée Camilien. Again, thank you all for the love and the support. Feel free to share it. Winnie Antoine signing out. One love. See you next week, 8 p.m. Share it. We appreciate it. Bye bye, everyone. Good night. Oh, I'm just gonna give some shout out. I'm sorry. So Angel said very informative. Thank you, Angel, for following us. I'm sorry. Vanessa said thank you. Giving Vanessa some shout out. I'm sorry. And Gregory, I hope I'm saying your name right. Yes. Gregory is always supporting us, sharing
Yeah.
it. We appreciate the love and the support. I didn't want to end the night without saying thank you. And Etabo says, hello. Hello to you, sir. All right, everyone. Have a good night. Vanessa says she'll be next week. We're looking forward to it. Please share it to as many people as you can so that way all of us can take advantage of the lovely knowledge that Miss Chameleon is going to be sharing with us. All right, I'm really going to end it right now. Good night, y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.